Hello and welcome back, folks. What is Admiralty law? Listen very carefully because I operate in maritime. Admiralty law is the body of judges that deals with maritime. Where they get their power from is what's going to interest you. It's the Navy. It means she who controls the Navy. The Navy is there to safeguard, as you by now know, the contracts that move from one point to another. That's why the Navy was responsible for shipping mail. So when there is a breach of contract in maritime, the judiciary that governs that part of law take over, and they use the force of the Navy to enforce their findings. Now, because I'm a federal postal court judge in maritime, I have all of that under my belt, as it were. So I'm not in the judiciary of Admiralty. I'm in the judiciary of the federal postal courts, which sits above the Admiralty as well. Why? Because honorable men and women that are interested in safeguarding contracts, safeguarding human beings, safeguarding vessels, need to give power to the Navy to do exactly that, to safeguard those vessels. Here's another twist that you have to, and I mean you have to understand this. You are a vessel. You are a ship. You are a vessel in faith. You are a vessel as a titan, which means contract. You are a vessel in everything that you do. If you are drunk and you get prosecuted for being drunk, you're actually being prosecuted for lack of control of a vessel while in the public waterways. That's it, folks. When you get drunk, you are incompetent to control your own vessel. You see where I'm going with this? So the Admiralty is essentially another word for the Navy. The Navy is another word for your naval. That's where the word comes from. And that's in maritime because you are created in water. Embryonic fluid, I think they call it. There you come through a birth canal, all of which you already know. But you got to understand the beauty of what the Navy is offering you. You got to understand that maritime law is what you need to be in, not corporate law, unless you've got a corporation, not statutes and legislations, which is nothing more than the conduct of secret societies or the behavior patterns of secret societies, which you know nothing about, by the way. That's why they give you statutes, legislations, and codes, and so on and so forth. And what does a code mean? It means it's a secret. Otherwise, it won't be a code, will it? So you need a cipher to break the code. That makes sense, doesn't it? But let me come back onto the beauty of the Admiralty. The Navy is openly telling you in passe, in words, that we are attached to your navel. We are now acting as your placenta. We are acting to protect you as you move from one point to another. If you want to know the beauty of it, watch the old black and white naval films. Or, one of my favorite, Mary Poppins Returns, which I did an expose on. And there it's telling you what the Navy does and what the Admiralty does. Admiralty, maritime law, must not be confused with the convention or what is known as the law of the sea, which has to do with how ships maneuver, i.e. they don't collide, i.e. my words don't collide, your words don't collide on me. So we remain as factual as possible. I fly my flags, follow flag protocol, communication takes place, no reason for collision. The law of the sea refers to mineral rights, pollution, and so on and so forth. Yes, it is all part of the Admiralty, and yes, it is governed by Admiralty, because you don't want tank captains, oil tank captains, washing their tanks out with seawater and pumping it back into the ocean, as they used to do in the 80s. It's the Navy that does that, and you need to know the beauty of what the Navy does for you. So celebrate it, ladies and gentlemen. As I explain myself, you need to know what submarine law is. Submarine, sub means no, as in subhuman, which means no human. Submarine law simply means that below the waves, as opposed to above the waves, Rule Britannia, when you go below the waves, there never used to be any laws. None whatsoever. That's why a Russian submarine, as long as it remains below the waves, can sail right up, navigate its way up the River Thames, which they used to talk about, that it can navigate up the Hudson River, and the Americans would do the same thing, say, with the Beluga River. You understand what I'm saying? Because there are no laws. And they used to openly advertise these things. They even used to do exposés on it, saying that the Russians were found navigating up the Hudson Bay in New York. Do you see what I'm saying, folks? But that came to an end when there was one ocean. We now have one ocean, by the way. There are no 7 seas. That came to an end. It's one ocean. Check your children on this knowledge. Ask them, do they teach you 7 seas now, or is it one ocean? It's one ocean, as well as one religion. But I won't go there for the time being. I'll think about doing an expose on that later on. So all that came to an end. Submarines have to conduct themselves using the same protocols as they do above the waves, as well as below the waves. That's what the movie Aquaman was about, when the submarine was polluting, was acting in a dishonorable fashion. Maritime law, ladies and gentlemen, is what you need to navigate into. International law and all of these other things are created so you do not open the contracts for maritime law. Like knowing how the bills of the ladings works on your letters. Bills of the lading is a marine or a maritime expression. So what is marine law? That's very simple. Marine law refers to the safeguarding of animals and plants and zooplankton that lives in the ocean. That's what they call marine law. It looks after those animals that can be at risk of human activity. People have to conduct themselves correctly. Nations are not free to pollute the oceans. I'm not going to let them. Certainly, if I'm a chief federal postal court judge and a plenipotentiary judge, what do I have to do? I can't sit in my armchair doing nothing. I have to stop and correct, educate, as well as get those people prosecuted, put liens on them. We are not about words and words alone. We do things. And these laws are there to protect you. The world is more safer knowing this type of information and without it. As the good book says, for my people perish for the lack of the knowledge. A little bit of passe there, but it holds true. Educate yourself on the basic principles. Do not allow yourself to be convoluted. Life is thousands of times more simplistic. Convolute it, and what you get is known as the colouring of the law. And you're not going to allow the colouring of maritime law, and I certainly won't. Thank you very much for listening to me, folks. If you like what I have said, subscribe. If you want to make some comments, make your comments. I know there are millions of people out there that know about maritime law. Millions of them. Help yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening to me. Bye-bye now.